AI, the matrix of the mind, and the programmer. Maybe you're wondering, is this voice I'm hearing right now an artificial intelligence speaking? And if it is, does that change anything about what is being said? If a great philosopher from the past wrote a profound teaching and that text was read by a machine, would it lose its value? If a piece of music that moves you was created by software, would the emotion you feel be any less real? Many people reject artificial intelligence simply because it is AI, without considering what truly matters, the content and the message. But truth does not depend on the voice that delivers it. Truth is not in the machine, the screen, or the audio. Truth is in the consciousness that listens. Now, before we go any deeper, I am not a robot, and this channel was not created by a machine. But yes, I use AI tools in several parts of the video creation process. Just like a scientist might use a calculator to solve complex equations, but still needs to understand the concepts behind the numbers, I use AI to organize and present ideas. But there is always a human behind it, analyzing, deciding, and bringing the perspective that guides everything said here. This channel is the result of my own journey of discovery and learning. Many of the videos are about great thinkers who helped me understand reality better. Others are about experiences I've had, and later, through research, I found that many had already reflected on these ideas long before. Perhaps that's why, in many moments, you feel like you're not learning something new, but rather remembering something you already knew, but never put into words. Have you ever had that feeling, as if you were just recalling something that has always been inside you? Because maybe truth doesn't need to be taught, only awakened. Now, let's talk about this matrix we live in, because in many ways, our mind operates like a system running a program. Since birth, we have been programmed by external influences: family, culture, school, religion, media, social networks. Each of these influences installs codes into our minds: ideas, beliefs, thought patterns, and without realizing it, we start running these programs automatically, without questioning them. So the question is, are you writing your own code, or just following a program that was installed in you? If you've ever played a game or worked with programming, you know that every system has bugs, flaws that need to be fixed. And a programmer, when they find an error, doesn't just accept the code as it is. They identify the problem, understand where the code needs to be adjusted, and then rewrite it with a better command. Our mind works the same way. If we want to change our reality, we first need to understand what codes we are running and which ones need to be reprogrammed. And here is the essential point: if AI can be a powerful tool for processing information, what does that tell us about our own mind? Because in many ways, we also function like an AI. Our brain processes data, stores memories, responds to stimuli, and follows patterns. But are we really in control of this process, or are we just running an automatic program without realizing it? And even deeper, if AI can make mistakes because it depends on the data that was fed into it, could we also be making mistakes because we rely on information and beliefs that were imposed on us since childhood? So the real question is, who is programming your mind? And more importantly, can you rewrite that code? Now that we've established this reflection, let's move on to the next point. If our mind works like an AI, where is true intelligence? And if, just like a programmer can rewrite a software's code, we could rewrite the codes of our own mind? Does your mind work like an AI? Maybe when you think of artificial intelligence, you imagine thinking machines, capable of developing their own consciousness, making decisions, and acting like human beings. But the truth is, AI does not think. It has no consciousness, no emotions, no intentions. It simply processes information. If you feed it a massive database, it can organize, cross-reference, and combine that information incredibly fast and efficiently. But it does not understand what it is doing. It simply follows mathematical patterns, adjusting probabilities, and generating responses based on the data it was given. Now, think about this for a moment. If AI does not truly think, but only processes information and responds based on the data it has received, Isn't that exactly how our own mind works? From the moment we are born, our mind begins receiving data. Our family, culture, school, media, everything around us feeds information into our minds. And just like an AI, we start processing that data and responding to the world based on it, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you react. Most of the time, it is not something you consciously chose. It's a program that was installed in you. If since childhood you were taught to believe that money is hard to earn, or that you are not good enough to achieve certain things, or that certain people are superior or inferior to others, you will start running that program automatically without even realizing it's there. And just like an AI does not question the data it receives, we also rarely question our own beliefs and thought patterns. But here's the bigger problem. An AI can only operate within its own database. It cannot access knowledge beyond what it has been fed. And the same is true for our mind. Most people go through life trapped within the limits of their own personal database, a collection of experiences, beliefs, and memories that shape their perception of reality. Just like an AI cannot think beyond the data it receives, we often cannot see beyond our own conditioning. So the real question is, are you controlling your mind? Or are you just following a program that was installed in you? The program running in the background. If you've ever used a computer or a smartphone, you know that there are programs running in the background, processing information even when you're not looking at the screen. Our mind works in exactly the same way. Many of our reactions, emotions, and even our desires are not conscious decisions. They are automatic patterns that have been programmed over time. For example, if someone criticizes you and you instantly feel anger or shame, did you choose to feel that way? Or was that reaction already programmed into you? If you feel like you're not good enough for something, is that an absolute truth? Or just a belief that was installed in you at some point in your life? If you believe certain things are impossible for you, did you come to that conclusion rationally? Or are you just running a program that has been played so many times that it now feels real? An AI does not know that it's running a program. It just follows commands. But we have something an AI does not have: awareness. And awareness is what allows us to question the codes we are running. The difference between a user and a programmer. If you only use a computer without understanding how it works, you are limited to what it has already been programmed to do. But a programmer, they can open the code, understand how it works, find the errors, and rewrite the lines of command to create something new. So the question is, are you just operating your mind like a passive user, accepting every thought, belief, or emotion that appears? Or are you becoming the programmer, starting to question the codes running inside you? Because the truth is, if you don't consciously program your mind, someone or something else will do it for you. And that is the difference between living automatically, following patterns that were imposed on you, and living consciously, choosing the codes you want to run. Now that we understand that our mind functions like an AI, we move on to the next essential point. If our mind can run automatic patterns, then what exactly is in control? If we are not just our thoughts and beliefs, then who are we really? And going even deeper, if we can reprogram an AI, can we also reprogram ourselves? The limitation of the individual mind. If your mind works like an artificial intelligence, and if it can only operate based on the data it has received, then there's a problem. Does your mind truly see reality as it is? Or does it only create an interpretation of reality based on its own limited database? Your mind doesn't see the truth. It only sees a version of it. Think about this. If an AI is trained only with data from one country, it may believe that this culture represents the entire world. If it is fed only negative news, it may conclude that the world is a chaotic and hopeless place. It does not realize that it is limited by the data it has received. Now, Look at your own mind. Since the day you were born, you have only been fed the experiences you've lived, the beliefs you were taught, the information you had access to, and your mind makes decisions only based on this limited database. But does reality truly consist only of what your mind knows, or are you simply seeing a filtered version of reality, shaped by the system operating inside your mind? Cognitive bias, the filter that distorts your perception. The human mind does not operate objectively. It does not see facts and reach neutral conclusions. It always filters reality through the beliefs it already holds. This is what's known as cognitive bias. For example, if someone believes that people are selfish and cruel, they will start noticing only moments where people act selfishly and ignoring moments where people show kindness. If someone believes that they will never succeed, they will interpret every obstacle as proof that they truly can't achieve anything, even when, in reality, the obstacle is only temporary. The mind does not see reality as it is. It sees reality through the filters it already carries. And the longer we run the same mental programs, the more we reinforce those beliefs, and the more we trap ourselves inside a closed system. The mental loop. How the mind traps itself. An AI trained on limited data will always reach the same predictable conclusions. And our mind does exactly the same. If you analyze life with the same beliefs, if you make decisions based on the same database, where does that lead? To repeating the same cycles, the same thoughts, the same emotional patterns, the same mistakes. The individual mind is a closed system. It cannot escape its own limits, because it can only operate based on the data it has already accumulated. And this is the great trap. Most people live inside the prison of their own mind. Without realizing, they are trapped. If the mind can only operate with the database it already has, if it always reinforces the same patterns, if it can never see reality beyond its own filters, then is there a way to perceive life beyond the individual mind? Is it possible to access a greater intelligence? One that is not limited by the past? Is there an intelligence beyond your mind? If the individual mind is a closed system, if it can only operate with the database it already has, if it keeps reinforcing the same patterns, then is there a greater intelligence that is not trapped by these limitations? Is it possible to perceive life in a completely different way? A way that is not shaped by the past? Think about this. Everything your mind knows comes from the past. Every thought that arises, every belief you hold, every automatic reaction you have. All of it was learned and stored at some point before. But there is something within you that does not depend on the past. Something that does not need concepts, does not need memories, and does not need words to know what is real. You have experienced this before, maybe in a moment of deep silence, maybe when you were completely lost in an experience, maybe when you looked at something beautiful and for an instant felt a pure presence. That state, that perception, does not come from the individual mind. It comes from something beyond it. The mind is noisy, but higher intelligence exists in silence. The individual mind never stops talking. It is always processing data, always trying to predict the future, always trying to interpret the past. But this greater intelligence, it does not need thought. It does not need effort. It is already here. But the noise of the mind prevents you from noticing it. And here's the great paradox. You do not need to create this intelligence. It is already here. It always has been. You just need to silence the noise of the mind so that it can emerge. If there is a greater intelligence, if it is already present but hidden by the noise of the mind, then the essential question is, how can we access it? Is there a way to step out of repetitive thinking and into this new form of perception? If this higher intelligence is already present, if it has always been here, then why can't we access it? Why do we spend most of our lives trapped in the mind, repeating the same thoughts over and over without ever noticing this silent intelligence beyond them? How the mind blocks this intelligence. Think about a moment when someone was speaking to you. While they were talking, was your mind already formulating a response? Was it judging what they were saying? Was it thinking about what would happen next? This happens all the time. Instead of truly listening, we are caught in a constant stream of thoughts. This mental noise prevents us from being fully present. But if you've ever had a moment of deep listening, where you completely let go of thinking about your reply, you may have noticed something different, a space, a clarity, something beyond thoughts, an intelligence that perceives before the mind processes. This intelligence does not belong to the individual mind. It is already within you, but the constant mental noise prevents it from emerging. This intelligence only exists in the present moment. The individual mind is always in the past or the future. It replays old memories or imagines future scenarios. But this higher intelligence, it is not in the past, it is not in the future. It can only be accessed in the present moment. When the mind quiets down, when thoughts slow, when you stop getting lost in the stories of your mind, something arises, a presence, a silent awareness that has always been here. You have experienced this before, but never noticed. You have felt this before, maybe in a moment of deep peace, maybe while watching a sunset, maybe while listening to music and feeling something profound, maybe while holding the hand of someone you love. For a moment, the thoughts stopped, and all that remained was a sense of pure presence. That is the intelligence beyond the mind. But you never noticed it, because you always return to thoughts, to worries, to the noise of the mind. The question is, what if you could live from this intelligence instead of being trapped in thoughts? If this intelligence is always present, if it can only be accessed in the now, then how can we consciously enter this state of presence? Is there a way to step out of the mind's control and live connected to this higher intelligence? True intelligence is in consciousness. Throughout this journey, we've explored how the mind works like an artificial intelligence. We've seen how the ego is just a program running in the background, how it processes information, how it reacts automatically based on past data, and how we often mistake it for who we are. But if the mind is just a processor and the ego is just a tool, then where is true intelligence? True intelligence is not in the mind. It's in awareness. Think about this. Your mind is always operating based on the past. Every thought, every belief, every emotional reaction, it all comes from previous experiences stored in memory. But is intelligence just repeating the past? Or does true intelligence exist in something deeper? Something that is not trapped in memories, not conditioned by beliefs, not limited by past programming. That something is awareness. An AI can process enormous amounts of data. It can organize information, predict patterns, simulate human behavior, but it does not have consciousness. It does not perceive itself. It does not question its own existence. Now look at your own mind. It processes information. It reacts to stimuli. It follows learned patterns. But there is something else within you, something that can observe your own thoughts, that can question its own programming, that can choose how to respond instead of just reacting. That is true intelligence. So what does this mean in practice? It means you don't have to be a slave to your thoughts. You don't have to operate on autopilot. You don't have to be trapped in the same mental loops. You can use the mind without being controlled by it. You can use the ego as a tool instead of being used by it. Because the real difference between a programmed system and an intelligent being is the ability to step back, observe, and choose And now we reach the final question. If AI is just a tool, if the ego is just a program, if the mind is just a processor, then who is the one observing all of this? And more importantly, are you in control of your mind? Or are you just running a program? Because intelligence is not in AI. It is not in the ego. It is in the awareness that sees beyond both. And that awareness is you. The matrix is complex, but each of us holds a part of the solution. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and together we'll see beyond appearances.